Dubai. An artificial paradise erected upon the desert, a mirage of glass and gold promising luxury, opulence, and a movie-style lifestyle. Its skyscrapers arrogantly kiss the sky, its shopping malls contain ski slopes in the midst of infernal heat, and its 7-star hotels offer beds larger than entire apartments elsewhere in the world. It is the city where millionaires flaunt their power, where influencers pose on rented yachts as if they owned the sea, and where every corner seems designed to feed a fantasy. But at what cost? Beneath that suffocating glitter, a much darker side hides, one rarely mentioned in travel brochures, one that international media scarcely dare touch. Because in Dubai, luxury comes at a price, and more often than not, those who pay it are not those who enjoy it. In this first chapter, we will begin to lift the veil on a city where freedom is a disguise, where power is displayed while the weak are silenced, and where the female body, though hidden beneath tunics and traditions, burns with a force no one dares admit. At first glance, Dubai appears as a futuristic utopia. There are Lamborghinis serving as taxis, artificial islands shaped like palm trees, fashion events featuring European supermodels, towers that defy architectural logic, and influencers posting photos from suites that cost thousands of dollars per night. But behind those perfectly edited smiles lie stories of control, exploitation, and a repression so sophisticated that it goes unnoticed by the average tourist's eye. One of Dubai's least discussed secrets concerns its hidden workforce, hundreds of thousands of migrant laborers, mostly from countries like India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, the Philippines, or Nepal, who built the city with their own hands under inhuman conditions. They toil under extreme temperatures, without real labor rights, with no possibility to complain, with no escape. Their passports are confiscated, their meager wages barely keep them alive, and many live crammed into labor camps far removed from the luxury they helped construct. But this is not merely an economic issue. It is a calculated system of silencing where human dignity is sacrificed for the facade of progress. Yet Dubai's murkiest side is not limited to its labor structures. There are other shadows, more intimate, more silenced, more dangerous, those that surround women. In Dubai, the public image of women is carefully controlled. Local women often dress in extreme modesty, black robes called abayas that cover the entire body and often the face. On social media and at official events, they appear discreet, obedient, impeccable. But that aesthetic control is only the surface of something deeper. In the United Arab Emirates, women still live under laws that treat them as property. They need permission from a male guardian to marry, to work, or even to travel abroad. Cases of women who tried to escape the country and were captured or forced to return have shaken the world. Who hasn't heard of Princess Latifa, daughter of Dubai's ruler, who attempted to flee the country by yacht, desperate to escape what she herself described as a golden prison? Her story seemed ripped from a spy movie. She planned her escape for years, crossed maritime borders, recorded desperate videos, until she was intercepted in international waters by special commandos and forced back to Dubai. Since then, her exact whereabouts have been a mystery, and every official statement feels more like a staged production than proof of life. That story is not an isolated case. It is a demonstration of the system, a muffled scream behind marble walls and dancing fountains. Even among foreign women living or working in Dubai, many quickly discover that freedom has perilous limits. In this country, reporting sexual assault can end in prison for the victim. Documented cases show how women who reported rape were accused of extramarital relations, a crime under Islamic law. In other words, a raped woman risks imprisonment simply for speaking out. The legal system does not protect, it controls. Despite this, Dubai has become a hotbed for covert sex tourism. Although prostitution is officially banned, it is estimated that thousands of women work in luxury clubs, hotel bars, private apartments, and exclusive parties organized by wealthy Arabs or foreigners. Many come from Eastern Europe, Asia, or Africa, lured by promises of quick money. What they often find is another form of slavery. Networks controlled by mafias, imposed debts, violence disguised as glamour. At some private gatherings, women are treated as mere exotic decor, and the worst part, many know about it, but no one says a word. The contradiction is brutal. While local women are demanded to maintain obedience, chastity, and silence, on the other hand, a double standard thrives that turns the female body into currency, into spectacle, into product. There are parties where Russian or Brazilian models are invited to entertain millionaires, where the forbidden is expensive but attainable, where a woman is worth more for her silence than for her voice. Nevertheless, there are women resisting from within, women who, even subjected to social and legal control, are creating cracks in this seemingly perfect system. Local influencers who speak in code, activists denouncing abuses from anonymous accounts, artists reclaiming eroticism as visual protest, journalists risking their freedom to document stories of abuse. On the margins of what is allowed, female desire remains alive, though watched. It continues yearning, even when denied the right to decide. And in those shadows, it burns more intensely. Dubai is, in essence, a city of masks. The mask of luxury, the mask of power, the mask of modernity. But behind each one, there is a silenced woman, a hidden story, an uncomfortable truth. And it's time to look beyond the skyscrapers. If Dubai is a gilded cage, its private parties are the corner where the lion is unleashed. What ordinary tourists never see, what never appears in luxury catalogues or carefully edited Instagram posts, happens behind doors that only open with an invitation stamped with millions. The contrast between public and hidden in this city is so profound it seems designed by an architect of double standards. While outside everything is strictly regulated, from necklines to alcoholic drinks, inside in marble ballrooms and private rooftops, the unspeakable occurs. And yes, many of those scenes are led by the same influencers who smile through filters, who promote an ideal life in the desert, and who hide secrets no one dares mention. Let's start with the business of invisible pleasure. Although prostitution is officially prohibited in the United Arab Emirates, Dubai has perfected the art of the unspoken. There are international escort networks operating under the guise of touring models or luxury travelers. Parties are held on private yachts, in five-star hotel suites, or in mansions far from public view. Women from Europe, Africa, Russia, or Latin America are invited with promises of easy money, travel, gifts. And although many arrive thinking they are entering a world of glamour, they soon discover another side: unwritten contracts, economic dependence, psychological control, even threats. A recent scandal, which of course did not make local headlines, involved more than 20 Eastern European women invited to Dubai for a so-called fashion event. Once there, their passports were taken away, and they were moved to a luxury villa where they lived in practical isolation. According to leaked testimonies, they were paraded as trophies before sheikhs and billionaire businessmen, forced to participate in parties that crossed the line between luxury and abuse. Some managed to escape and told their stories anonymously. Most simply vanished from the digital radar, silenced, bought, erased. But not everything happens behind opaque curtains. On social media, another form of complicity is detectable. That of influencers who lend themselves, sometimes out of naivete, others out of greed, to whitewash that reality. Many travel with all expenses paid, staying in hotels where one night exceeds a migrant worker's monthly salary. They post photos on yachts with champagne in hand, use hashtags like Blessed Dubai Dreams, and promote an unreal image of a paradise where anything is possible. What they don't say is what is paid for those privileges. Because in many cases, their trips are not trips at all, but disguised exchanges, body for lifestyle, silence for visibility. In one particularly notorious case on certain online forums, a European influencer with more than 500,000 followers was filmed at a private party with several Arab men who clearly did not share her love story for the country. That video was never published on official platforms, but circulated in closed groups, sparking speculation, censorship, and the influencer's immediate disappearance from social media for several months. When she reappeared, Everything seemed forgotten, but the question remained. How many more are living the same, only more quietly? Sponsored trips to Dubai have become a new covert recruitment mechanism. And we're not talking about conventional tourism. We're talking about castings disguised as collaborations. Young women are contacted by mysterious agencies or managers offering luxury campaigns. A week in Dubai, with 5-star hotel stays, dinners included, VIP transportation. They just need to post a certain number of photos tagging local brands. Some accept without suspecting, others do so fully aware. But once there, they discover that brands matter least. What matters is their presence at private parties where much more than a smile is expected. At those events, everything seems straight out of a movie. Gold-plated trays, extremely expensive drinks, guards at every entrance, and women, many women, carefully selected to play a role. Some dance, others accompany, and a select few are chosen to attend personally to the most powerful guests. Rumor has it there are even blacklists. Women who didn't follow the rules and can never return to the city. Because in Dubai, if you don't comply, you vanish. And amid that atmosphere, the female body once again becomes currency, even for local women who, despite apparent respect for tradition, are also used as symbols of purity, obedience, and family prestige. But in private, many of them live locked up, monitored, with no control over their own lives. There are reports, scarcely disseminated of course, of Emirati women who attempted suicide to escape forced marriages or abuse within their own families. But like everything in Dubai, scandal is swept under the rug. Nothing must tarnish the perfect image. The law also plays its part. In the United Arab Emirates, the legal system favors men in nearly every aspect. A woman's word is worth less in court. Adultery, even when resulting from rape, can be punished with prison or deportation. Many foreign women become victims of the system simply because they don't know the rules. An Australian tourist was arrested for drinking wine on a flight to Dubai, despite the airline serving it legally. Her mistake, speaking too much when detained. What for her was a defense, for local police was a sign of disrespect. She spent days in custody with no right to contact her family. And that is just one example among dozens. But perhaps most worrying is digital control. In Dubai, the government can monitor your messages, your calls, your posts. Some apps are banned. VPN connections can lead to fines. And if you publish content deemed offensive, even if it's just an opinion, you can be detained. Women who try to report abuse or inequality on local networks risk being tracked, located, and silenced. Even those living outside the country have received threats after speaking about personal experiences that occurred in Dubai. Desire in this city is not dead. It is exploited. It is repressed in public and exaggerated in private. Dubai is a sensual paradox, chaste on the outside, decadent on the inside. A place where appearances are everything and truth has no space. Where a woman can be a goddess or a servant, but is rarely free. And the brighter the city shines, the darker its shadow becomes. Behind every smiling sheikh gracing the covers of business magazines, behind every regal pose in white robes and diamond watches, there exists a hermetic world that even the inhabitants of Dubai dare not look squarely at, that of the royal families, their wives, and the absolute power they wield as if they were 21st century pharaohs. Here, wealth is not a goal, it is a birthright. And control is not an exception. It is the rule. The women who are part of these royal dynasties are often presented to the world as decorative figures, always perfect, impeccably dressed, silent. Some attend charity events, others post inspirational quotes on social media under supervision, and a select few appear in image campaigns as symbols of women's progress in the United Arab Emirates. But the reality, far from that public image, is unsettling. Most of these women live lives controlled down to the smallest detail. Their movements are monitored, their friendships chosen by the family's inner circle, their posts approved by image consultants, and their personal freedom limited even within the walls of the palaces. Leaked testimonies from former staff claim that some sheikhs' wives are not allowed to leave their residences without a male escort, nor speak to strangers without prior approval. Privacy, as we understand it in the West, does not exist, not even behind walls of gold. One of the most publicized examples was the case of Princess Haya, the former wife of the Emir of Dubai, who fled the country with her 2 children, seeking asylum in the United Kingdom and publicly revealing psychological abuse and constant threats. For years, Haya was portrayed as a modern woman, educated in the West, a goodwill ambassador. But her testimony made it clear that the glamour was only a facade. "I could not speak freely. I could not leave without fear. I lived amid luxury and panic." In Dubai, luxury often functions as a gilded prison. There are no bars, but there are cameras. No shackles, but there is fear. The women of these families must maintain an impeccable image while obedience, silence, and submission are expected of them. Punishment is not always physical. Sometimes it is isolation, erasure from public life, disappearance from social networks, or, as happened with Princess Latifa, forced confinement under strict surveillance. But this power structure is not limited to the sheikh's wives. In many circles of Emirati high society, women are treated as status symbols. Some families pay enormous dowries for their daughters to marry into powerful clans. These unions, far from romantic, are social transactions. Once inside those households, many women must give up their aspirations, their studies, their voice. In exchange, they receive luxury cars, designer clothing, access to the world's best doctors, but they cannot say no. Even for women who do not belong to the elite, living in Dubai as a woman implies constant surveillance. From Filipino or Indonesian domestic workers to foreign students, many face systems of control and institutional violence. Hundreds of cases have been documented of workers locked in the homes where they labor, forced to work exhausting hours with no contact with the outside world, no pay, no rights. The laws, instead of protecting them, often serve the system that exploits them. In cases of abuse or harassment, the authorities may punish the victim for defamation or immoral conduct. The legal system favors men in almost every aspect. If a woman reports her husband for violence but cannot prove it with irrefutable physical evidence, the case is dismissed. Even worse, often women are fined or arrested for damaging the family's reputation, a vague concept that can be used to silence any form of dissent. All this happens while Dubai sells itself to the world as a city of the future, of cutting-edge technology, of modernity. International conferences on innovation are held. Women's empowerment events are promoted with carefully selected figures, and celebrities are invited to endorse the city as a paradise for female entrepreneurs. But what is not said is that this empowerment has an invisible limit. What is permitted? Those who cross it vanish. And yet the desire keeps beating, because even within the highest walls, the female body seeks ways to resist. There are women who write under pseudonyms, who film clandestine documentaries, who share their experiences via encrypted chats. In small circles, private debates on Islamic feminism, sexuality, and reproductive rights are organized. They are not on the news or magazine covers, but they exist. And every gesture of rebellion, no matter how small, is a political act. Meanwhile, the rest of the world remains fascinated by the official image: the fountains of the Burj Khalifa, luxury safaris, shopping malls that look like spaceships. But very few ask how that city was built, how many lives were broken in the process, how many women cried in silence with no one to hear them, how many bodies remain imprisoned, not by bars, but by the expectations imposed upon them. Dubai's gold shines brilliantly, but in many cases it conceals blood, pain, and silence. In this city, the murky does not hide in the slums. It lurks behind electronic gates, in the halls of power, in the laws drafted to protect control. And it is there, right there, where the darkest side of desire mingles with opulence. Dubai is a perfectly calculated illusion, a fantasy that gleams with the intensity of desert sun, built to seduce the world with promises of wealth, pleasure, and security. But while tourists pose before the Burj Khalifa and influencers share floating breakfasts in infinity pools, the hidden machinery of this paradise never rests. In this final chapter, we descend to the deepest level, the real life behind the scenes, the structured exploitation, and the millions of invisible bodies that sustain the planet's most artificial city. Let us begin with an uncomfortable truth. Dubai runs on modern slave labor. It is not a metaphor. Hundreds of thousands of migrant workers from India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, the Philippines, Ethiopia, and other poor countries keep the city afloat. They build its skyscrapers, clean its streets, cook in its restaurants, tend its gardens. And they do so under conditions that, had they occurred elsewhere, would have triggered international scandal. These workers arrive indebted, trapped by agencies that promise them decent employment and charge them unaffordable fees in advance. Once in Dubai, their passports are confiscated, they are locked into tiny dormitories far from the city, and they work shifts of up to 14 hours for miserable wages. Holidays? Number overtime? Number unions? Forbidden. What happens in those labor camps is legalized slavery, disguised as contractual employment. The irony is brutal. While they suffer under 50-degree heat building skyscrapers, social media continues to sell Dubai's image as a city of the future. Influencers who don't speak the language, who never meet the eyes of the person serving them coffee, post photos with hashtags like "Chuck work hard, play hard," never imagining that the one who built the hotel where they sleep doesn't earn in a year what they spend in an afternoon. Dubai pays them not to see, not to ask, not to think. But it isn't only the laborers. There are also domestic workers, predominantly women from the Philippines, Indonesia, Ethiopia, or Sri Lanka. Thousands are brought under contracts that, in theory, guarantee their rights. In practice, they live like prisoners. Many have no days off, work without rest, and suffer physical, verbal, or sexual abuse. If they complain, the police usually side with the employer. If they flee, they can be jailed for breach of contract. Some have died under mysterious circumstances. Others have been sent back to their countries with irreversible trauma. Their suffering does not appear on TikTok, but it is part of the mechanism that sustains apparent perfection. At the same time, Dubai has also developed an unofficial but functional network of high-end sex tourism. And although the government publicly prohibits any form of prostitution, in practice, certain areas of the city operate as covert markets of desire. Hotels where each floor offers a different type of companion, bars where women are not drinking for pleasure but for work, private parties with exclusive access where female beauty is sold to the highest bidder, all under silent agreements. Nobody says it, but everyone knows. The women who work there come from all over the world. Some arrive by choice, hoping to earn fast. Others are victims of trafficking. The line between the two blurs when there are threats, when passports are withheld, when escape is prevented. Dubai doesn't need brothels. It has luxury apartments with locked doors and surveillance. It has modeling agencies that function as human showcases. It has intermediaries who manage contracts in which the body is the merchandise. And while all this happens, the city keeps its immaculate facade. Extremely high fines for public kissing, arrests for wearing indecent clothing on the beach, internet censorship, social media surveillance, apps that monitor conversations, cameras on every corner. Dubai sells order. But that order is built on imposed silence, where appearances are everything, where what matters is not the truth, but what seems to be. Even tourists, upon entering this world, unconsciously accept the rules. They pay to live the fantasy, to enjoy luxury, to feel like sheikhs or princesses for a few days. But they do not know, or choose not to know, what goes on behind the curtain. They do not ask about the silent young woman cleaning their room, about the driver waiting 12 hours in the hotel parking lot, about the foreign woman who smiles too much by the pool. The most disturbing thing about Dubai is not that it hides a dark side. It is that it hides it so well that even those who see it hesitate to name it. Because the city has perfected its image: clean, futuristic, orderly, safe. Nobody talks about silent suicides, about broken contracts, about disappeared bodies, about women erased from their own stories. And yet amid all that oppression there are cracks, small but real. Women who dare to tell their stories anonymously, men who leak images from the workers' camps, activists who denounce abuses from abroad, artists who cloak their critique as art, journalists who, despite the risk, keep investigating. They are the resistance, the voice of those who cannot speak. Dubai is not just a city, it is a symbol. It represents the most extreme dream of authoritarian capitalism: total control, obscene wealth, imposed beauty, repressed desire, and invisible exploitation. And like every symbol, it cannot be understood without seeing its shadow. Anyone who visits Dubai believing they are stepping into the future should ask themselves, a future for whom? And at what cost? Because if the price of that luxury is silence, another's body, buried dignity, then that future is not progress. It is a dystopia with excellent lighting,